I'm Dutch, and let's react to the Americans. Hello, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Johan, and I am a typical Dutchman. And I often wonder, why is there such a difference in understanding of the United States and Europe, or American and Europeans, or the Netherlands, or so where is this coming from? And so I look at videos to compare Europe with US, or vice versa, or Europe and the Netherlands, or the Netherlands with the US. So if you're interested and you want to know together with me where these differences are coming from, and learn together with me more about Europe or about the US, then like and subscribe to the channel and you will learn with me. And today I'm going to take a look at how I see the US after living in Europe for 2 years. From Dave in Portugal. Oh, he is in Portugal. Then let's start with a subscribe and a like, and then see how he's doing in Europe, in Portugal, comparing to the US. Let's start at the start.
Almost 2 years ago, I took one of the biggest risks of my entire life.
Let's take a look at the volume.
Feel something. I just wanna breathe again. Dive into the deep.
I sold everything I owned, told my family and friends goodbye, and started a new chapter.
Wow! Sold everything he owned. Took Wizz Air. See, wizzair.com, and left for Europe?
Europe. Portugal, to be exact.
First dive in the pool.
Damn it.
Damn
This
it,
is how
yeah.
I to the US after living in Europe for almost 2 years. And let's just say it changed me, but not in the way I thought it would. I'm going to be brutally honest and not going to hold back. Keep in mind these are only my opinions and you can take it or leave it, simple as that. Ever since the first time
I noticed that a lot of videos that I watch about how Europeans or how Americans in Europe view the US is that they are concerned about that they are, how do you call it? Dashing the US, as in you don't burn down your home country, the country that you came from. And why? It's an honest opinion. It helps your fellow Americans to form a good opinion. And if you're only sugarcoating the truth because it's America, I don't know why. If I do not like something that happened in the Netherlands, I will say it out loud. That's the freedom of expression. It's the way it should be. And if I don't like it, I will tell you. But that's also part of the Dutch culture, of course.
I had visited Europe back in 2011, I knew that I wanted to move here at some point, gain some new perspective, and introduce a new culture into my life. And what better place to do it than Europe? Instead of 50 states, there's 50 different countries that speak completely different languages and all have diverse food and cultural backgrounds.
50 different countries, yes?
So I'm going to start with the biggest difference that I found between United States and Europe, and that is the work-life balance. Now, this is a big generalization because I know that there's countries in the European Union that work very hard and want everything to be perfect. Germany. But for the
Yeah, but even the Germans work hard but in their states, but still they enjoy the evening, and they also have a good amount of free time or spare time to do.
For the most part, it seems that one of the most important things to Europeans is their quality of life. There is this generalization that a lot of Europeans don't work as hard as Americans. And I don't think that's completely true.
We do not work as hard as the Americans. Yeah, okay, let's hear what he has to say about
Many
it.
cafes and restaurants in Europe have the same owner from the start to finish. They never retire. They do the same thing with very exceptional quality until the day they die. And this isn't something that happens too often in the United States. This is one of the reasons that I think in
Wow, this looks good. Sardines.
Europe, the food quality generally tends to be a bit better, even
Yeah, but it's Portugal. It's a lot of fish dishes over there.
the fast food. The European fast food tends to still have fresh ingredients if they aren't the franchises from America like McDonald's.
Yeah, I don't go to McDonald's anymore because the prices are too high lately. But when I did, yeah, sometimes, even then, then the fresh food was actually fresh on the burger.
You can't compete with a restaurant whose owner has been cooking the same dishes for 50 plus years. And it's pretty obvious when I speak to friends and family back in the United States that they kind of have this rushed agenda where they're trying to get as much done as they can throughout the day. And this was me included when I lived in the United States and I was working 12-hour days, sometimes 6 days a week. But I was missing out on some of the most important things like stopping and really listening to my friends and family. And I think that this is one of the most important things to most Europeans. I think this idea in the United States of having these big achievements and never being forgotten is something that's really important. However, in Europe, they have the right to be forgotten.
Literally and figuratively. Yeah. You contribute to the society, you do the things that you need to do, where you get paid for, and when you're done, you enjoy your retirement, go make holidays, meet with your friends, and it's done. Okay, you've done what you need to done. And I understand that in the United States, that's not the case. You want to make an impact, so nobody forgets ever what you did for the United States. Yeah, I do not even remember half the presidents of the United States, but some I do. Reagan, Roosevelt, Obama, Biden, and now someone who really goes into the history, Trump.
There is actually a law in Europe that is the right to
Yeah, GDPR. That's what it literally and figuratively, yeah.
be forgotten. Now, this is a foreign concept that I don't think Americans think about a lot. In Europe, if you've had an imperfect past, the European Union allows you to move past that. And this also means that in Europe, people have the right to have their personal data erased once the personal data is no longer necessary to the organization collecting it. While in the US, forcing removal of articles on the internet is impermissible under the First Amendment. Now, after living in Europe for almost 2 years, I have come to the conclusion that the United States is currently in a state of toxic extremism. It's not
Toxic extremism. Do you agree? If you do, leave a comment, and while you're down there, press like too and subscribe. It would be the world to me if you actually subscribe to the channel so we can grow and make this a better world.
very common in Europe to hear people arguing about politics, blaming unrelated issues on opposing political parties or specific politicians. It's just something you don't really hear that often. Now, that doesn't mean that Europeans aren't political. However, you don't see it tearing apart families based on the president or prime minister that they voted for.
No, we don't. We debate on political issues and never, I will say never, but almost never about personal issues or dragging in personal issues or personal history into a political discussion. No.
When I go to family gatherings in Portugal, rarely does politics ever come up. And this is something very polarizing and disappointing in the United States. I can't go anywhere in the United States without somebody blaming something on Biden or Trump, like they're responsible for everything that's gone wrong in the past 10 years or something. Now, sure, I have my political beliefs as well, but I usually keep them to myself and don't ruin everybody around them's energy and vibe. Now, in Europe,
We do. Oh, I hold an SS. Wrong.
they have witnessed
Let's go back.
ruin everybody around them's energy and vibe.
What I want to say was we talk about politics when it's necessary, something extreme is coming up, but it's not by default that we talk about politics now.
Now, in Europe, they have witnessed all of the extreme political swings, and they are living in a direct result of the aftermath, which is why they are a little bit more hesitant and seasoned when it comes to political matters. If you come from a place in the United States like Detroit or Flint, Michigan, like I do, then safety is a night and day difference here in Europe. Especially Portugal, which has been ranked one of the top 10 safest countries in the world. After living in Europe for 2 years, I've been able to let my guard down and not be as paranoid.
Yeah, I guess that's hard when you're coming over to Europe and you can feel safe for the first time. It will take, I guess, several weeks, not even if even months. I don't know for him, but that you actually feel safe, that you can leave your house at night or coming home from a party or something, walking in the darkness, and don't be afraid to get robbed or shot at.
Especially when I'm walking around alleyways at night or going to see a movie or going to a festival, I don't have to worry about the place being shot up. It's very sad, but this is a true reality in the United States. And in the USA, wealthy people have moved to the suburbs in gated communities because they fear the inner city's rising crime rates.
Yeah, it's sad, but this looks amazing. Wow. But he talked about the wealthy people into a gated community. So it's more a prison to keep the people outside, but also inside. Damn, that looks nice.
Gated communities because they fear the inner city's rising crime rates. And I can't help but to think back in times when I lived in Los Angeles where I was robbed at gunpoint, or when I lived in Reno, Nevada and our family house was broken into multiple times.
Yeah, then you have bad experiences with. I can get it.
And sometimes it makes me apprehensive to come back to visit the United States. And if you've ever had a gun held to your chest, I'm sure you can sympathize with what I'm talking about. But after being in Europe for a couple years, there are few places that have violent crimes like the United States. Europe is certainly not a perfect place. And
No, we're not. We have our crime, etc., but
you do have crimes happening here. However, nowhere near the scale of the violent and gun crimes happening in the United States. A place where you can be attacked in the streets for your beliefs. And that concept to most Europeans is completely foreign. Now, I know that prejudice exists here in Europe. However, I have never heard an ethnic or racial slur ever yelled on the streets like I have in the United States. And
yeah, that's because of the protective speech, the freedom of expression versus the freedom of speech in the United States. And the freedom of expression prohibits that you talk about violence or racial slurs, neo-Nazism. So hate speech is forbidden by law. So when you offend somebody, that's the best word to say, not specifically hate speech, but when you offend somebody else, then you are wrong. And until that, you can say and do anything you want.
And that should say a lot. All right, now let's talk about the food. Unless you have the financial means to do so, you are likely paying 4 times for gourmet foods in the United States, where in Europe, these foods are just the normal. In America, fresh, healthy food is usually sold at a premium where only the richer people can afford it. In my opinion, this is a crime against humanity. Here in Europe, they subsidize the agriculture so that it can still be sold at an affordable price. And more than half of the GMOs and chemicals available in United States foods are illegal in Europe. Typically in Europe, teenagers speak.
Yeah, oh, it goes over fast. Yeah, so a lot of farmers, but also get subsidized from the government to keep the prices at a certain level. Okay, we pay taxes, but more taxes, this also means lower costs of living. It's one of keeping things in balance between your cost of living and the taxes you have to pay.
Multiple different languages. They're well versed in fine arts and music. And they understand world geography. Generally just much more cultured than what I see typically in the United States. I mean, when I first came to Europe when I was 21-year-olds, I had 17-year-olds playing me Mozart and Bach and painting incredible paintings and speaking 4 different languages to me, and I realized that, wow, I am not cultured at all. And I think a big part of this is attributed to the education. All over Europe, schooling is free.
Almost free. Not everywhere, almost free. And when you have to pay, then it is a low tuition fee or subsidized by the government.
And some of the best universities are even free. Students here can focus on their passions, and if they don't like what they're gotten into, they can switch it without being in this massive mountain of debt like in the United States. Students in Europe can focus on their passions, and if they made the wrong decision and don't like the career path they're taking,
then they have a problem. They have to go to the teacher that, I don't like it. What? You don't? Well, let's think. Yeah, then we grab the student and we're gonna talk and find out what do you really like. Do some tests for it. Is this what you like or is that what you like? And then we guide them to a different education, what they really like.
they're not in mountains of debt like they are in the United States. They don't have this strong pressure to continue to pursue something they don't want to do. And I think this is really important. Some countries in Europe even allow you to go into a specific trade of choice to be able to follow your passion and not have to learn all of this useless knowledge that has nothing to do with your career path.
I'm looking for thinking about an example what he means. Yeah, it would be in certain European countries that you can learn a specific trade without the rest along it. It could be. It's not in the Netherlands. There are some certain aspects of your teachings that you have to follow besides your career path.
I know many people, including myself, that are afraid.
Healthcare. Oh, yeah. I did a video on that one too.
To go to the doctor in the United States because of how much it's going to cost. And it's a complete opposite contrast here in Europe, where many of my friends go to the doctor regularly just to get a checkup because they can. And it seems to be encouraged by the doctors. In Europe, things like blood tests and exams are a fraction of the cost that they are in the United States. For instance, I went to the hospital and needed to have an x-ray done on my finger. And I went, no, how much is that gonna cost? And they said, €1. And I went, can you put my whole body into the x-ray machine then? Just kidding, I don't need any unnecessary radiation exposure. But I don't think that people should be in fear of going to the doctor. And this is the reality for a lot of people in the United States. Currently, I pay a premium healthcare insurance in Portugal for about €85 a month.
Premium healthcare for 85. That's cheap. It's cheaper than in Holland, in the Netherlands.
And that includes just about everything. Whereas a not so good insurance in the United States that I was paying $500 for a month.
500.
month was never accepted anywhere and was a complete hassle to have.
Was never accepted. Huh? What? Never accepted anywhere? So why would you pay for it if you cannot?
So the polarization is pretty crazy in terms of the healthcare here. Now, I will say that the public hospitals tend to get overrun here in Portugal sometimes. But because I have private healthcare insurance, I can use any of the private state-of-the-art hospitals located anywhere in Portugal.
Yeah, it's not that you have to go to a specific hospital. You can go anywhere. And even he's private, so he can even go anywhere within the Schengen area. This means he can also go to Spain and to France if he wants to a hospital and get the same care for no extra cost.
And I've been there a couple times and they're super nice and I've been really impressed by the facilities. Now, alcoholism certainly exists in Europe, that's
We do drink, yes, we
for
do.
sure. But the drinking culture in the United States is completely different than most of Europe, maybe more similar to Ireland or United Kingdom. A lot of European countries have a long history with wine and beer, and they've developed an art form on when and where and how much to drink. In comparison to the American binge culture, shots, 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 shots. This doesn't really exist in Europe for the most part. In fact, it's very rare to see people taking shots, and if they are, they're these little baby shots that are half of what they are in the United States. I feel like
And that's the drinking culture. I guess it's my opinion, but you can correct me in the comments if you want to. It's very good. I want to know how it is in the United States, but because the legal drinking age in Europe is 18, you start early with drinking and have drinking experiences that leveling out. And you think, yeah, after a year or two, you think, yeah, I've seen it all, I had it all, I've been drunk enough, I puked a lot, and then you're leveling out, and then you're going to drink and you're going to enjoy your alcohol drinking as part of the friends, your birthday, or out with friends in a restaurant, enjoying some wine or some beer. But like it says here, party, when you only had allowed to drink from the age of 21, yeah, then you're 3 years behind. Yeah.
in the United States, it's encouraged to get wasted and get super drunk, and people brag about these experiences.
Yeah, and that's what I want to say also because the title is alcoholism. When you work a lot and you work from, let's say, 6 in the morning till 8 in the evening, and then you have to relax and want to have some fun, and then you drink, then you pass out, and then you go back to work. And that's also a part of, the work culture is, this makes it worse. I guess when there is a better free personal and work relationship balance between work and free time, there will also be a better balance between when to drink and when not to drink.
But in Europe, you don't want to be that guy. Don't be that guy stumbling through the streets. They will think you are a complete idiot. Do yourself a
Yes, you're.
favor and don't be that guy. But how I see the United States now is not all negative, and there are some things that I took for granted while growing up there. One of those things is the American dream. Now, a lot of people said that is dead, but I believe the spirit is still very alive and well. The concept of entrepreneurship is not as popular here in Europe as it is in the United States. The United States is a place where people have a dream.
Yeah, okay. I won't diss on it, but I guess most of those entrepreneurship is coming from the need to get some money because you need to survive. So you need to think about what can I do to get my own money, to get my own life back in order and earn money so I can live. And yeah, Europe, we don't have that urge to specifically make the need to survive, otherwise you're homeless. that's because there is more backup from the government. So, yeah, the American dream is there, but I guess it's there because of the necessity. Because if you don't, you simply won't have money to survive and you end on the streets.
And they can move that future forward. And I have to credit that optimism for the entrepreneur spirit that I have today. And I never realized how truly American this concept was. And I would not be where I'm at today without this hustler go-getter mentality. And I have to give massive credit to the United States for that. I think a lot of times in Europe, it is this foreign concept to have this grandiose dream where you can live in financial freedom and retire early. But I believe Americans have this spirit of working very, very, very hard to be able to retire and enjoy, a certain amount of your life.
Yeah. Work hard and retire early. Of course, that's part of European dream. That's everybody's dream. And in the United States also. But I see a lot, and that's my opinion, I see a lot that work hard to get financial independence means work hard and stay working hard. Stay until you die to be financial independent. You are rich. And even if you're rich, then you keep on working to get, retire early means you've got your money, you're done, you're finished, you get your portfolio with your stocks that you need to live from, or you're going to rent out, whatever you're going to do, and then you quit working, find a nice place somewhere in the United States, put your ass on a chair, and enjoy the sun and a tequila. Something like that. Then you have it. But no. Work hard to be financial independent, to stay working hard. It's not the way, in my opinion.
However, one of the biggest problems is that people don't end up retiring until 65 in the United States, and most of your life's over. So younger Americans now want to retire at 40 and 35.
65 is retirement? Will somebody tell this to President Biden or Trump? You're 65, so leave the office and go do something and make room for young people who actually know how politics works.
If they can. And more power to them if they can figure out how to do so. But after painting these generalizations with such a wide brush, it's important to mention that there are countercultures and micro-communities all over the United States that also criticize many of the things that I mentioned in this video. There's an America that I love and miss so much. But of course, there are truths to the stereotypes or else they wouldn't exist. But at the end of the day, honestly, I'm just trying to have an open, fun conversation. And that's one of the beautiful things about living in the free world. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Am I just trying to put everybody into a box, or is there so much more nuance to all of this?
Yeah, only you guys can answer that, because what he's telling about Europe and Portugal, I already commented on, but I cannot comment on the parts that's happening in the US and what's true or not true from the US. So let also know in the comments how you think about this.
Either way, I will be continuing to make videos all about Portugal. If this is something of interest to you, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button.
Yeah, okay. A good video. Good video about life in Portugal, but also a review on this life and how he sees the United States living in Portugal. I had a lot of things I do not know about, so correct me in the comments if you need to. I will react to all the comments, of course, and if you want that I react to another kind of video, also leave it in the comments and I react to it. And like and subscribe. It's important to me. And we will see each other in the next video.